Following a 2-month stint in the Ardennes forest along the Belgian-German border, the 4th and 28th Infantry Divisions of the United States Army were sent to the quiet 8-corps sector within the Ardennes forest in Belgium for some much-needed R&R. They would join elements of the 106th Infantry Division and the 9th Armored Division, 2 units with little to no combat experience. This quiet, peaceful sector would come alive with the sights and sounds of conflict on the morning of December 16, 1944. 250,000 elite German troops smashed through the loosely defended 8-corps sector and quickly encircled the important crossroads town of Bastogne. The Germans took the Allies completely by surprise, who up until this point believed that the German war machine was on the verge of collapse. However, it was heroic feats by the everyday soldiers who refused to compromise and capitulate to the German attack and fought on that allowed the Allies to recover from the surprise attack and continue their push towards Berlin and the destruction of Nazi Germany.
Oh, give me land, lots of land, under starry skies above. Don't fence me in.
On the morning of June 6th, Allied forces successfully landed on the beaches of Normandy, France. The race to Berlin had officially begun, and by the end of August, the Allies reached the city of Paris. On the afternoon of September 11th, an American patrol would wander through Luxembourg across the border into Germany. They would become the first enemy soldiers to step foot on German soil since Napoleon. From a hill, they could overlook the dragon teeth of the Siegfried Line. At the same time, British Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery had devised a plan to go around the West Wall, as was the nickname of the Siegfried Line. Codenamed Operation Market Garden, it would be the largest airborne operation in recorded history. Launched on the 17th of September, 3 airborne divisions would land at 3 key towns in Holland. Each town contained a bridge, with the final one at Arnhem crossing into Germany. The operation would result in a disaster. The single road connecting the 3 bridges clogged, leaving the British trapped at Arnhem. This failure ended any hopes of ending the war by Christmas. After failing to go around the West Wall, General Dwight D. Eisenhower decided to go through it. On the 2nd of October, the Allies launched a 2-pronged attack, one through the German town of Aachen and another to the south through the Ardennes forest. After intense street combat that destroyed 80% of the city, Aachen was declared secure on the 21st. To the south, everything was going wrong. The terrain of the Ardennes forest played completely in favor of the Germans. The thick forest prevented any use of tanks or air cover. The Germans would set their 88mm artillery to tree burst mode, causing their shells to explode above the trees, raining wood fragments and shrapnel on the victims below. By mid-November, the constant rain began to turn to sleet and slush. Cases of combat fatigue began to rise. One joke went, "After 5 days on the front line, you start talking to the trees. On the 6th, you get answers back." By the end of November, the remnants of the 4th and 28th Infantry Division were ordered south into the Ardennes forest for rest and refitting. The Allies received many signs of an impending attack on the Ardennes forest. Tank movements were recorded by Patton's 3rd Army to the south. Belgian civilians warned the senior intelligence officer of the U.S. 1st Army, Colonel B.A. Dixon, of a heavy concentration of troops and tanks outside of the Ardennes. However, Dixon's warnings were discredited as simply a hunch, and he was sent to Paris on leave on the 15th of December. At 5:20 a.m. on the morning of December 16th, German artillery opened fire. Smashing through American lines all across the Ardennes front, they caught the Americans completely by surprise. In fact, the true scope of the attack would not be known by U.S. High Command until the next day. To the north, the town of St. Vith was in immediate danger. As elements of the 106th Infantry Division struggled to hold on to the Schnee Eifel just east of town, troops and supplies of the 7th Armored flooded into the town to set up a defensive perimeter. One of these units was intercepted by an SS Panzer Division at the crossroads of Bonnet just outside the town of Malmedy. 130 prisoners were herded into a field and gunned down by German machine guns. Some escaped, but in the end, 84 soldiers lay dead. It would become known as the Massacre at Malmedy. The southern crossroads town of Bastogne shared the same fate. The collapse of the 28th Infantry Division to the south and the 106th Infantry Division to the north meant that Bastogne was on the verge of being surrounded. General Eisenhower ordered the immediate deployment of the 101st Airborne to Bastogne and the 82nd Airborne to St. Vith. That night, they would be transferred by truck with little ammunition and no winter clothing. The situation would only get worse for the Allies. East of St. Vith, 8,000 members of the 106th Infantry Division would be surrounded and would surrender to the Germans, the largest surrender of U.S. troops of the entire war in Europe. In the following days, over 22 separate attacks would be fended off by the 7th Armored Division around St. Vith. However, on the 21st of December, the Germans finally broke the line and drove into the town. As the Germans completed their encirclement of Bastogne, a heavy fog set in on the town. In many instances, both German and American patrols would get lost and wander into enemy lines. Lieutenant Richard Winters recalls arresting a German soldier going to the bathroom behind their company command post. The heavy fog meant that any resupply of Bastogne through the air was impossible. On the 22nd of December, the Germans offered an ultimatum to the defenders of Bastogne. Surrender or face annihilation by artillery were the terms. Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe replied with one word: nuts.
I've got plenty to be thankful for.
The following morning, troops awoke to a Christmas miracle: clear skies and sunshine. Pathfinders were set up to mark drop zones, and C-47s dropped supplies to the troops below. All across the Ardennes, fighter-bombers and P-47s stalked the white snow looking for German tanks. Popular roads and towns were bombed. St. Vith was reduced to rubble, congesting its roads for over a week. This was crucial to the success of the Allies, as German panzer divisions were pushing farther and farther west, but were running out of fuel fast. On Christmas Eve, the temperature would drop to 4 degrees. Few soldiers would be able to attend Mass that evening. Most were stuck on the front lines. In Bastogne, soldiers stole a radio and listened to repeats of White Christmas by Bing Crosby.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
The following morning, the Germans would launch a final major all-out assault on Bastogne. In some places, the Germans came within half a mile of the town itself, but the troops, with support from tanks and P-47s, held off the attack. With the Germans completely out of fuel to the west, General Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt notified Hitler that the battle was lost. Christmas did indeed mark the climax of the German offensive. The 37th Tank Battalion, under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Creighton Abrams, who would go on to command all U.S. forces in Vietnam, linked up with Bastogne from the south on the 26th. Germany would be on the defensive for the remainder of the battle. On the 3rd of January, the Allies launched their final counterattack to clean up the Bulge. By the 29th of January, the lines had been completely restored. By the end of March, the Allies crossed the Rhine River and flooded into the heartland of Germany. On the 7th of May, 1945, Nazi Germany surrendered to the Allied powers. The last-ditch attempt to turn the tide of the war by Adolf Hitler had failed. When planning the attack, the German High Command did not consider the willpower of the American soldier. They did not take into account the ability of the American soldier to face unforgiving circumstances and refused to compromise and capitulate. They completely underestimated the American spirit.
You'll never know how many dreams I dreamed about you, or just how empty they all seemed without you. So kiss me once, then kiss me twice, then kiss me once again. It's been a long, long